What's going on, Bulls fans? It's very few pages and people I say are like must follows on social media. I'm joined by one today. We got Daniel Greenberg in the building. He owns the Twitter page Shy Sports Updates. What's going on, Daniel?
How's it going?
Hey man, I'm out here living the life, I guess, of a Bulls fan. Stress. That's what it is. There's a lot of stress that goes into it.
Yep.
But so I wanted to like kind of start this off talking about you. So like you run Shy Sports Updates. Like, how hectic can that be as far as like updating on all Chicago sports teams, and also how depressing is it right now considering the state of all Chicago sports?
Yeah, it can be pretty hectic, especially like when there's free agency,
Mm,
the trade deadline, like NBA draft, NFL draft. It gets hectic, pretty good amount of times during the year, but
mm.
it's a lot of fun. And yeah, it's not the best time to be a Chicago sports fan, but I always say like this is when we win it all, it's gonna feel a lot like 10 times better. So.
Like all the time. Like people will say, like, "Well, how do you stay a Bulls fan?" And I'm like, I've literally been a Bulls fan my whole life. I've never even thought about. I don't understand the people who are like, "Oh, well, the team's bad. I'm changing teams." Like that's just something I've never been able to do. I'm emotionally invested, so like you said, going through these down times is going to make the good times feel even better. Let's just hope we get there sooner rather than later, man.
Absolutely.
Uh, but with that said, right now the Chicago Bulls sitting in a place where I guess we're kind of waiting to see what the next phase of this roster and this team looks like. The Zach LaVine news has come out that both sides are open to a trade. When you hear this, and it's kind of in some places it's been painted more as like an unofficial trade request by Zach LaVine. Some people have painted it as more of kind of like a let's see what happens. If you can improve the team, maybe I'll be willing to stay around. What are kind of the vibes you get right now around that Zach LaVine situation? Is it one of those, no, I'm out of here regardless? Or do you think that the Bulls could do something to maybe salvage that relationship and Zach LaVine ends up staying in Chicago?
Yeah, so I look at it as a trade request by Zach LaVine and his camp.
Mm,
That's how I look at it.
yeah.
Because he's been in the trade rumors basically ever since he's been a Chicago Bull.
Hmm.
And he's always had the same answer as if it's not coming from my camp. I love being here. But then after this report came out, his answer basically changed and said
Yeah.
that his camp is in talks with Arturis and Mark Eversley, and they always have had a good relationship. So I've looked at it as a trade request by Zach LaVine, which is fine. It's his right. If I was the Bulls, I would be doing stuff a little different than what they're doing right now with him. But it's his choice. So we'll see where he goes from there.
Yeah. Do you have confidence in the front office, like to go into this next phase? Like, where do you sit with like AK and everything? Because the way I look at it is this: like, I'm sure they're going to try to get some assets back that can contribute now, probably some future first and things like that. Do you do you want to see this team still try to compete, or are you at the point now where a lot of Bulls fans are, where it's like just tear it all down and let's hope we're going to be better in the long run?
Yeah, so I know like a lot of fans and some of the reporters want this team to blow it up. That's not going to
Mhm.
happen. They are
Yeah.
not going to rebuild. And they said that publicly. If I was the Bulls, I would not play Zach LaVine another game with the
Hmm.
Chicago Bulls. I don't think he deserves it. He doesn't understand what it means to wear the Bulls jersey. And I think he's letting the team down. And I think I would sit him on the bench or just tell him to go home and try to trade him as soon as possible. Um, and I think they are struggling with him in the locker room.
Hmm.
And I think him out of there will benefit the team.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that came out too, like how like the players are kind of over Zach to a degree too. And then I've personally heard just from some of the people that I know that like Michael Reinsdorf has never been the biggest Zach LaVine fan. So it's like it seems like everything's kind of coming. Like you said, he's been involved in trade rumors for God knows how long now. And at some point, it just comes. I look at it as like every relationship ends at some point, whether it be in sports,
Mhm.
professionally, whatever it is. And it just seems like it's reached that point, and the Bulls have to make the best decision for the franchise, the future, and the present of the franchise. And while I still have aspects that I like about Zach, it's hard to defend him with the way that he's played, especially in these last couple games. He plays like somebody he's just ready to go.
What aspects do you like about Zach?
I like what Zach is when he's efficient. I think like if like what he looked like when Lonzo was there next to him and things like that. I feel like we always haven't had the best team around Zach, and I know he's not a number one, but I like if we were able to get that one, I like I guess the potential of what Zach could be, and I've liked when Zach's been the most efficient. I think when Zach gets in a groove and he gets going, he's one of the most fluid scorers out there in the NBA. It's just that we like I had to think it's good that you asked it because I literally was thinking, I'm like, if I think I've fallen in love with what Zach was, and he hasn't really been that player for best
Yep.
part of about 2.5 years at this point now.
Yeah, I mean, everyone says he has potential. I'm still waiting to see it. I don't think he does anything good on the court that helps the team win, honestly. I
Yeah.
think I think that I mean, $215 million that he gets did not motivate him to play defense, did not motivate him to hustle on the court,
Hmm.
did not motivate him to rebound, did not motivate him to for passers, to shoot the ball,
Yeah.
like with the flow of the offense. For me, it's like a penalty kill. It's 5-on-4 on defense. He does not play good defense at all. For me, I was a big Zach LaVine fan.
Hmm.
But when you play selfish basketball and your basketball IQ is at a 0 and
Yeah.
you don't do what helps the team win, and I'm a Bulls fan, you're out. That's how I look at it. And you want to leave Chicago when you're getting paid $40 million a year?
Yeah.
See you.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, I can't knock that at all. It's like the trade request thing and just wanting to be out of here. I'm very much so like, if you don't want to be here, don't be here. Like, right?
Yeah,
Like, it's at the
yeah.
end of the
That's
day,
how I
it's
look at it.
yeah, it's a privilege. And if you don't want to be here, and like I said, I can understand certain aspects of why he's kind of over this team as well. But like at the end of the day, you want people who want to play for you, right? You want people who
Yeah,
want to compete for you. You want people who are going to have pride in putting on that Bulls uniform. And if it's reached that point where he's not, it is what it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I would not play him another game. I don't think he's gonna. I honestly have. I think that he lets the team down.
Yeah.
I think the way he plays the game, his emotions, like I'm just not a fan of it at all. I just think it's very selfish.
I mean, a lot of people share that mindset, so I can't knock it at all. When you look at this roster and like and I know we don't know what pieces we get back, and they could drastically change right now. But as we go towards that phase and get to that point where it may not be to the December 15th date where everybody kind of becomes available to be moved, but when you look at this Bulls roster, do you think that we have the pieces that are ready to step up in the absence of Zach LaVine?
Yeah, so I think that when they trade Zach LaVine, because I don't think it's an if anymore,
Hmm.
I think it will be for players like for now. I don't think they're going to focus on getting a lot of draft picks. I
Okay.
think it will be rotational players like shooters that can help the team right now. Because like I said, I don't think they're going to rebuild. I think they want to, trade Zach and still compete for this season and see how the
Hmm.
team is. So I think it would be more of rotational players, and I think that other players on the team are going to have to step up. Kobe White's going to have to step up. Carter is going to have to step up. Julian Phillips is going to have to step up. So I think it'll be more of players that can come off the bench and provide that spark for them.
Hmm. Do you think do you look at a player like Kobe White as a player that once Zach is gone is going to be ready to step up and take on a larger scoring load for this team rather than he's doing a lot of ball handling now?
Yeah.
Do you think it can move to where Kobe White kind of goes to that scoring two guard for us when things fall out?
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility.
Hmm.
I actually don't mind him in that point guard position. I know that like people focus of like he needs to score a lot more, but I
Yeah.
actually like the passes that he's been making.
Yeah.
Just that his teammates are not knocking it down. And I like the way that he focuses on defense. He actually plays defense. I don't mind him in the point guard position. I think it'll get a lot better with him there. But there's definitely a possibility that he can be a combo guard.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. When you look at like other parts of this team, like Billy Donovan, what's the feeling that you have on Billy Donovan as head coach of the Chicago Bulls? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, I go back and forth all the time on Billy Donovan. There's times where there's aspects of what Billy Donovan does that I understand that sometimes we just don't execute well as a team. There's also some things that I feel like Billy Donovan falls short on as a coach. But the secret extension, we still don't know how long, the money on that, anything like that. How do you feel about Billy Donovan and his coaching for the Bulls?
So I'll say from the perspective of a lot of Bulls fans don't like him,
Hmm.
but they're the only people that don't like him because
Mm.
the front office loves him. The players love him, even though it doesn't look like they do. They respect him. Um, I think he's a very solid coach, but he has let me down this season because a lot of the things that they're running on offense and defense are the same things that they ran last season. And I thought he
Mhm.
would adjust in the offseason, which I'm very disappointed he has not. I think that he needs to be better during the game and adjusting. For example, if Vooch is feeling it in the post, every offensive possession should be get Vooch the ball in the post, and then things can widen up with him getting double teamed and throwing the ball out to Kobe White or someone else.
Mhm.
But I've been very disappointed in Billy Donovan this season. But I think overall he is a solid coach.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and I've said that, like, I've had my issues. I always say, like, I have a saying now, and people know what I'm going to say. It's like Billy Donovan's not a bad coach. I just still don't know if he's the right coach for this team at this point in time with where we are on the roster. Maybe that changes. But it is what it is. I like Billy Donovan does some solid things out there. The DeMar part of it, like, how do you feel about DeMar right now? Like, do you think that DeMar ends up staying for the team? Do you think if Zach is traded, you need to also look at moving DeMar? Where do you sit with DeMar right now?
Yeah, so unlike Zach, DeMar actually cares about his
Yes. Mhm.
contract and has pride in wearing that Bulls jersey. I think it would be more of what happens with Zach LaVine. That's what's going to make his decision. Um, I think that he definitely wants to stay here. It's just more of he wants to see what does the future hold for this organization,
Mhm.
and I think that Zach LaVine piece is going to be the most important thing to see.
Yeah. So with DeMar approaching where he is though, like, do you think it's the right move to keep DeMar DeRozan, or do you think it's kind of it would be better suited for the team to move on and see what they can get for him out in the open market?
Yeah, I think it depends on the contract. I
Mhm.
like DeMar DeRozan. I think he's a very good player in the right system. And I mean, we've seen him win Bulls games by himself a lot in the fourth quarter, especially.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think it all comes down to what happens with Zach LaVine. I think that is the key. And that's why, for me, him if Zach continues to play like the way he's playing, he continues to let the team down, and that's why I think that the Bulls have a better chance of winning games when he's not playing.
I listen. I can't knock it. Zach's been playing like crap this season. The lowest true shooting percentage of his career. I think one of the lowest field goal overall shooting percentages since like his rookie year, which is crazy. And if he's doing the James Harden to force his way out, I'm not against what you're saying. Like, sit him.
Yeah,
Why risk him getting hurt? Anything else like that? It'd suck to have 40-some million sitting at home for a month. But at the end of the day, you got to do what's the best for your team. And I think that's what this new phase, more than a rebuild or anything else. I hope that it moves into AK focusing on, okay, we got to stop. Not that you don't want to appease players per se, but like, you have to now build this roster. You have the opportunity to build this roster in a more fluid way. And so we've had kind of a player at the centerpiece in Zach LaVine that is a very flawed player. No player is going to be perfect regardless. But if you can build a new team atmosphere where it's all about the team and the sacrifice more so than kind of, for lack of a better, I know this is going to sound harsh, coddling the feelings of one player. Because once I heard that Zach LaVine still hadn't got over being benched a year ago, it's like,
it's
come on,
ridiculous.
like, come
It's
on, man.
ridiculous.
You were playing like crap that game.
Any head coach would have done the same thing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's still a topic, and that's what I say about horrible basketball IQ as selfish player. Like you, the Bulls signed you to a $215 million contract. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. What are we doing here? Like, you should have no right to complain about all this stuff. You should be improving every single offseason and being that guy. They trusted you to be that guy, and you have failed. And that's a big reason why the Bulls are where they are today.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. Um, so in moving to like what's next for the Bulls, we've heard like attendance is dropping for Chicago or everything like that. Do you think that there's enough that they can do this season to salvage it and get back into the playoffs, or do you think this is going to be a situation where the Bulls are a lottery team this year, and maybe that's best to get some talent in it?
I don't think they're going to be a lottery team. I think there is talent
Mhm.
on this team, and I
Mhm.
think there's definitely lineups where you can put together that this team can be really good. Um,
Mhm.
but I'll continue to say it. The Zach LaVine piece, like
It all comes back to Zach.
because it's not only affecting them on the court, but in
Mhm.
practice, in the locker room, and it's a huge thing. It's like people don't understand how big of a thing that is. Like you're in practice, the guy that's making so much money is not playing to his like the standard that he should be playing.
Mhm.
It's a ripple effect to everyone in that locker room. And I think once that's gone, I think you will see this
Yeah.
team play a lot better. And I think they are,
Listen,
and I do think they are a playoff team without him. I
you think they're a
I
playoff team
do.
without Zach
If they
LaVine?
play the correct way, and the
Mhm.
right way, and with different lineup combination that I think that they should be putting together, I think they could be a playoff team.
Let's hope. Let's hope that that's the case. And I mean, from what we've heard, as far as like packages that are available, and everything's rumors right now, the Bulls will be getting some solid pieces back. But like you said, maybe some shooters and players that can come off the bench. And I would say that would speak volumes. If this Bulls team, after trading Zach LaVine back, and they don't get a player that's comparable to what Zach's skill set is, but that maybe, and we've seen that before. What, like back in the day when we got John Salmon. Salmons came in here averaging 20 points per game, and the team played better. I
Yeah.
think, did we sneak into the playoffs that year? That was like 15 years ago. Don't date myself on that one. But yeah, so I mean, it's not like we haven't seen the scenarios before. And when you have a player that's affecting, like you said, that's your $215 million. That's the highest paid player in Chicago Bulls history, right? And when they're setting the tone of like it's selfish, it's about them being lazy. I'm sure a player that's making a 1.5 million is looking at like, all right, why am I giving it this much effort and Zach isn't, right? Not to say
Absolutely.
that makes it valid, but it's like you setting a tone in a culture, especially a culture that was trying to repair what happened the years before. It's night and day. It's night and day. It's hugely important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's why, I think he should not be playing. And I don't,
Do you,
and for me, I know there's a lot of Zach LaVine fans out there, and
mhm.
I don't know why you're still a fan, to be honest with you. If you're a Bulls fan, I don't see anything that he does to help this team win. If you're not motivated enough or get that big contract, and I get like he's a guy that can light it up on the offensive side, but that has not happened this season. So it
Yeah.
happens. I totally get it. But he's letting that affect the way that he plays on the defensive side and playing overall. If you continue to let that affect you and you continue to let the team down, you got to go. And for him to do that trade request, basically, that's how I look at it. I think it's a
Yeah.
disgrace. I think that if you're not motivated enough to turn this around and be that guy, especially after that contract, then you're just not that guy, and you just got to go. I'm sorry.
Do you think that AK and Eversley will, or I guess it'll come down to AK? Do you think they would ultimately, if the Bulls keep struggling in the way they have these last few games, do you think they'd be willing to seriously sit Zach until he's
Yes,
moved? Okay.
I do believe so, because they're also like their job status is also on the line.
That's a good
I
point
know
too.
they have
Yeah.
like a good contract. Like their contract is pretty good, even though it's all secretive. People know what it is. Um,
Yeah.
but they put this team together, and I respect that. I would love an owner or an executives to do what they've done, because if you remember, they got Vooch, they went for it. They got Lonzo,
Yeah.
they got Caruso, they got DeMar. It didn't work out. It happens. But they at least went for it. And that team was very solid in that first half of the season until Lonzo got hurt. They looked like a really good team. But,
They did.
you know, things didn't work out. I would have done a couple things different in the last couple of off seasons. That didn't happen, but you got to adjust. And if your best player, or some people say it's your best player, Zach LaVine, is not performing well and he wants out of here, you got to get him out of here. And by the way, I know Clutch Sports provides a list of teams of where he wants to go.
Of course.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't care about that. That's not up to him. If there's a package deal from a team that's in the bottom of the league
Yeah.
and it's a good package, I'm sending him there. Good luck there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we've seen. Even like for example, for Dame, like the Dame trade, like he had his team that he wanted to go to, and the Portland Trailblazers waited it out, and they found a package that was much better for them. They made subsequent deals based off what they got, and I agree with you. I think we saw the rise of player empowerment, right? And what Zach did basically in making sure he secured his money, requested the trade later on. We've seen other players do, right? But I think teams are now starting to catch on to the fact of we cannot allow our franchise to be for somebody a player to put their foot on the throat of the franchise and really hold us hostage. We got to make the best decision for us. And if that coincides with Zach going into contender and that's the best deal, cool. But I think where this Bulls team is right now, you don't owe Zach anything. You've paid him. You've tried to build a team around him. You've continued prioritizing him. You set with him through another knee injury and his initial one, right? The ACL injury, and then the one a couple of years ago. So we've done the things that we can do. And it's not to say that you just want to say, well, F you, Zach. I mean, to a degree, but you have to make the decision that's best for your franchise. And I don't want to see this team make a deal so they can send Zach to a team that Clutch Sports want him to go to, because that if you can't tell, that's something that does trigger me. I'm tired of Clutch
Me
Sports
too.
having so much dictation over what happens in the NBA. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it, bro.
Yeah, no, I'm not I mean, they're a very powerful agency,
Yeah.
but if you're a tourist and Mark, you're looking out for the organization. Who cares about your agency? And if they threaten you with like, hey, players from our agency are not going to sign with you, like when they become free agent, that's on you. Money talks. So when that time comes, if you have the money, that your chances of getting that player rises. But if you're a tourist and Mark, you got to look out for the organization, not for what the agency wants, because you guys basically did that trade request. Now it's our turn to send you to a team where we get the best package deal, not your like preferred list of teams.
Yeah. Have you heard anything of some teams that kind of surprise you that may be interested in Zach at all?
I think that a team that I wouldn't be surprised that shows strong interest is the Dallas Mavericks.
Okay.
I think the Mavericks are a team that I would keep an eye on. I think they have a lot of assets, and they're a team that every time these trade rumors came up with him, they're always a team that's like looking around and seeing like what would it take for him to come to Dallas. But I think they're a team to keep your eye on.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, Dallas, that would make sense, and that actually kind of falls inside with kind of what they want. If that were to happen, Dallas were to come to the table, what players interest you most on the Dallas Mavericks right now?
Yeah, I think for me, I think any trade with Zach LaVine, it would be a 3-team trade because of his contract. So any team with him, I think there will be 2 other teams involved. But like I said, I think it would be more, I would rather have like rotational players that are shooters and also maybe 1 or 2 draft picks. I will take like second round draft picks. But I think people might think that you're going to get a lot for Zach LaVine, and I don't think it's going to be the case. I think it would maybe be 2 to 3 pieces, maybe 2 really good pieces, but I think it would be more of like shooters if you got shooters on your team and maybe 1 or 2 draft picks.
Yeah, and that may be the route that they end up going. Lastly, Daniel, before I let you go, just when you look at the Chicago Bulls right now in the place that we are in the season, outside of the Zach LaVine situation, which I even think kind of the most pessimistic Bulls fans may not expect Zach to perform this way, which it sucks. What has either positively or negatively surprised you the most about this team so far?
So I'll go with negative first. Negative is definitely
Okay.
Patrick Williams. Um, I thought that he would step up this season. And for me, in order for the Bulls to take that next step, he had to have a big reason why they would take that next step. And he just looks lost to me. You see flashes here and there, but it's not how I wanted to see it. I think he's a guy that should be averaging 20 points a night and like 6 rebounds. That would be perfect for me. But he has just struggled big time, and it's just sad to see,
Yeah.
especially in his contract year. You would think that players would step up and become a little bit more selfish in a way, just like looking to score and looking to do more like of that flashy stuff, but that has not happened. And the positive for me is Javon Carter. I like the way that he has played. I think he should be getting more minutes, and that's one thing that I've been disappointed in Billy Donovan not giving him more minutes, because I think he's a veteran player that plays really good on defense. He's that guy that's getting on you full court. And offense, he's a pretty good 3-point shooter. I've been surprised with the way that he shot the ball, and he's a good passer. So I've liked the way that he has played.
I really like Javon Carter too, especially like last game was a little bit down for him, but like once Javon Carter started figuring out his rhythm on this bench and this bench unit overall, the bench unit has been playing so good together. I like how they're kind of finding their chemistry together and getting in that kind of bench unit stride all together. Io as well coming off the bench, but Javon Carter is a player that I like his tenacity. I like when he gets in rhythm shooting, how confident he is in that shot, and he brings a lot of that Chicago edge to the Chicago Bulls for sure.
Yeah, I wish he would give that stuff to
Zach
another
LaVine.
guy, but what can we do? It's tough.
Yeah, for sure.
It's tough.
For sure. Hey. But Daniel, thank you so much, man. Before we go, tell them where they can follow you at, brother.
Yeah, Shy Sport updates on Twitter or X, whatever they call it nowadays, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, definitely. You guys go and follow him. Talked about him before, man. If you guys are a Chicago sports fan, it's probably no better one-stop spot to get you all your Chicago sports news because he's great at saying on top of it. I'm sure after we get off this recording, he's probably going to have to go post 3 tweets because I'm sure something then dropped. But you guys can follow me at CEO Haize. You can follow the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. Chicago Bears. Bears. I'm on the wrong podcast. BullCentralPod@gmail.com. 773-270-2799 is the number for the text messages and voicemail. We're out of here, y'all. Chi-Town up. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.